Welcome back to the 30-day Jiu-Jitsu Mobility Challenge. Today, we're going to be focusing in on the long lunge position. This is one of my favorite little sequences for Jiu-Jitsu Mobility. You see it a lot in this challenge, but there's a good reason for that. I really think that it moves the needle for your Jiu-Jitsu mobility. Okay, so starting off with your right leg forward. You can either place your hand on your foot or inside or outside of your foot. But I like to have my hand firmly on my foot. The back leg is up on your toe here, or you can come up on the instep of your foot. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you, whatever's more comfortable. I actually find on the instep of my foot is more comfortable on this side. And we're going to move in and out of this position. The reason that I like this noodling style position is it enables you to really find the ray, find the vector, find that direction of this mobility movement that's going to really move the needle for you. And what I mean by move the needle and all these buzz phrases is basically what we're doing is we're trying to invoke some change in the muscle. We don't really want to be hanging out and just hanging off our tissues and try and lengthen them that way. The studies show that that's ineffective in actually improving your strength and your ability to be strong throughout your entire range of motion. So what we're doing here is I'm trying to get you to freestyle a bit and find where you're tight and focus in on that tight area. So the way that we say that, or the way that I've learned to say that resonates with people is finding the ray, finding the vector and just noodling in and out of different positions. There's no real right or wrong here. So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. But realistically, you can spend a full 5 minutes just on one side and then the other. So a full 10 minutes just doing this long lunge. But that might get a little bit boring for some of you, so I like to mix it up. Now I want you to come down onto your elbows here. And this is just a way of getting a bit of a different stimulus, maybe leveling up that difficulty. If you have a hard time with your elbows down on the floor here, you can come back up onto your hands, make it a little bit easier. But as a reminder, while I'm waffling on and trying to distract you, you should be breathing deep in through your nose and out through your nose or your mouth. Ideally with your mouth closed, just steady breathing deep into these positions. Now I want you to come back up on your hand if you're on your elbows. Put one hand up on your hip crease here and look behind you. Try and see if you can spot the foot that's behind you here. Nice rotation and sink into this hip flexor. Really drive that knee out and open up the position. Okay, all right, we're gonna leave it there and swap over. This time bring your right foot forward. Now we started off in this basic position with the hand on the foot, the one foot up and up on our hands here. You can come up on your fist if you're operating on a mat or a yoga mat or the gym mats or something like that. Just again, start that process of noodling around, moving around in this position, seeing what's tight, seeing where the rays, the vectors, that movement pattern is tight for you, and see if you can make some change, hang out on that position, move into it. You see me here just twisting around, doing a mini twist here, looking over both shoulders. In a moment, once we have warmed up and prepped this left side, I'm gonna go down onto my elbows again. You can start on your elbows actually in this position if you like. If this is too easy for you, you can feel free to jump down into that position already. But if not, hang out up here with me. Again, this is one of my absolute favorite mobility drills specifically for Jiu-Jitsu. It does wonders for your Jiu-Jitsu mobility. All right, so I'm gonna drop down onto my elbows here, and that already, I just find that it really binds up, makes it more challenging. You're really getting the height differential between your knee. You're increasing it between your knee and your shoulder. Up here, they're pretty much in line, but we're really creating a much deeper movement, which hopefully for some of you is going to give you more access to your full range of motion and your full expression of movement. Now, how this applies to jiu-jitsu is it really opens up your hip. I sometimes throw this in on my guard retention specials. This isn't necessarily a guard retention episode, but it will improve your guard retention just through the nature of having this movement in. Okay, so we're gonna come back up and as we did before, thumb on the crease of your hip and look over your shoulder. See if you can spot your foot behind you. And really breathe into this position for me. All right, and return. Okay, so now I'm gonna have both feet out in front of me. Now you can follow along with me. I wanna have my right leg out first, create a little hook with my fingers, hook my toe, and I'm going to use this hook on my toe to pull myself up and straight. And this is more of a static hamstring stretch, but I wanna be actively hooking my toe and pulling myself up into a position. I don't want you rounding and folding forward. I want you to stay nice and tall and then square your hips up with your leg that's extended out in front of you. It's a common mistake that people try and round, but you're actually taking all the tension out of this specific position. The rounding and folding over is a different mobility movement, a different stretch, if you will. And for this, I really want you to stay engaged. You can even engage your lat here. Keep your quad nice and turned on, engage your quad, flex your quad, and use that hook on your toe to pull yourself up. If you can't reach your toe, you can grab your ankle to effectively achieve the same thing, or you can use a towel or your belt or something like that to hook over your foot. We've done that variation before in the belt episode. Okay, and then we're gonna swap over now. Create the hook, hook your toe, use it to pull yourself up nice and tall, engage your quad, keep your quad engaged, turned on, flex. Basically when we say engaged, we're just talking about flexing that muscle group. So I'm flexing my quad against my tight hamstrings. This just makes sure, this ensures that I'm engaging my quad against my hamstrings and getting the full benefit of this mobility work. Hamstring flexibility is a really important part of being mobile for jiu-jitsu. And again, try and square yourself up, stay nice and tall. I don't want you rounding. I want you to engage your core. Stay nice and tall in this position. Steady, deep breaths. All right, and finally, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come into a modified Cobblers Pose. So we're gonna bring our feet together, and this time we are going to be folding forward. So we're not gonna come up against a wall. You can come up against a wall, but I'd rather you didn't for this. So we're going to have our feet together in this groin stretch Cobblers Pose style position. You can clasp your hands on your feet, and then just give me a nice, comfortable fold forward. If you can't do this or this is a bit too much for you, feel free to stay upright in this Cobblers Pose and just work that. This is a good opportunity to work this position. But for now, I'm going to really fold forward. You can keep your hands on your feet, or you can have your fingertips out in front of you, lightly resting on the floor. Try not to hold yourself up with your fingers, just lightly balancing yourself like fingertips here. Now, I'm not rounding my back again. I'm not trying to get as low as I can. I'm trying to keep my back straight and my spine neutral, as we say, my core engaged, but still hinge at the hips in this cobbler's position to get more out of this position and almost like a bit of a different look into this position here. But yeah, so I definitely want to stay straight in my back. Again, we don't really want to round. That's not really, you're not impressing anyone if you can round and get your forehead to the mat or something like that. What's more impressive is if you can do it with your back straight. Feel free to take nice deep breaths in through your nose, deep down into your diaphragm, into your hip flexors, into your groin, I should say here. Couple more seconds here. Keep continuing to drive yourself forward. Take up any slack that becomes available to you from this position. And slowly release. Feet in front of you, legs out in front of you rather. Shake it out. And that is a wrap. That's a nice, tidy little short episode today in the 30-day Jiu-Jitsu Mobility Challenge. Hope you enjoyed.